Trying to call him. Seems like he's still working.
You need me, is it?
No, I mean I'm filming now. You're on screen. Say hi.
Hi.
안녕하세요. Hi guys, welcome back to another video of my channel, and today I'm gonna share something with you guys. I don't know if I'm able to script it nicely. I mean, I did write some stuff, but I'm not sure if I'm able to explain it properly based on my experience. But I did a poll on Instagram and I asked if you guys would like to find out about how is it like to study in Korea, live in Korea, and there was way more response of wanting to watch this video. So I decided to film something simple. It's not going to be really long because as you know, I have to study and I'm still struggling a lot with school. I just wanted to share 3 things that you should consider before you come to Korea. It's really very different when I say coming to Korea because you guys watching this video definitely have came here to travel, and I would 100% agree that Korea, it's a really nice place for traveling. I mean, there's 4 seasons, Korean food everywhere, you can wear hanbok, meet Korean people, listen to Korean apart from dramas, and I don't know, everything just seems very magical when you come here for, I don't know, 2 weeks. I guess it's the same with every country. I don't want to just point out Korea, but I think just the fact of moving yourself from your home country to another country takes a lot of effort, courage, and a lot of adjusting, I must say. So as you can see, for me right now, I've been here for a year. I've adjusted to somehow calling this my home, but it's a new phase in life. So as all of you know, I'm under a scholarship program called Korean Government Scholarship Program. I have studied in Korean University for 1 year studying Korean language, and right now I just entered my master's degree in Korea University. So, Korea University! Still so patriotic to my own school, yeah? And I only came in for 2 weeks only. The thing is, what I really wanted to share is basically just really my opinion and what I've been through so far. I wouldn't say and generalize that every foreigner will face the same thing, but me as a Singaporean and Asian in Korea, I would say the difficulties we face are very different from Eurasians in Korea, like Eurasian and English foreigners in Korea. So this is really truly my own experience. I will just get started. Number 1, language. So like I said, I already studied Korean for 1 year, and I know I haven't really shared with you guys because I'm not really like, well, damn proud of it or something like that, but I got a topic 6 for my proficiency in Korean language test. But I would think that this level 6 means nothing at all when you go to Korean master study. So why would I say that? Because when you're studying Korean language in the language school, they teach you a lot of things that is related to maybe culture, and the words that they use are very daily living style words. So like maybe they will teach you what's like a living room, like koshil, or they will teach you how to learn more about the history of Korea, like Hansol and all this kind of stuff, but it's totally not related to anything that you will study. Like for example, in my case, I'm studying cultural and social psychology in Korea, and the terms that they use is something that I've never seen, so it's really very difficult, especially when it comes to studying Korean. If you're thinking a topic 5 or 6 will make your journey a lot smoother when you enter school, that is wrong. It doesn't make your journey any smoother in my opinion because of the different context of the words that you learn. So my advice to you is, even if you have topic 5 or 6, you still have to continue studying Korean in terms of reading papers that are related to your study or your field. What I really struggle with is conversational Korean. So I believe a lot of you guys watching this video, you're definitely way more fluent than me in conversational Korean, and I'm really bad at it. No confidence because I don't speak Korean with Mr. Naughty, and I still struggle with trying to piece the Korean words together. As you know, English and Korean are kind of opposite of each other. It's always very messy in my head, and that's one thing I struggle with conversational Korean and also with academic Korean. And that's not it. There's even written academic Korean, which is also difficult. So it's really a lot of difficult things. That's why I'm struggling. When it comes to speaking, there is 3 kinds of conversational Korean that I must point out. So there's a 높임말, 존댓말, and 반말. So to be honest, after living here for a year, I still cannot really differentiate what's the difference between 높임말 and 존댓말. But these two are very formal Korean that you have to use when you speak to people with a higher status than you. So for example, my professor or anyone that's older that we meet, or even people you meet for the first time, whether is it younger or older, you try to use 존댓말 or 높임말. And 반말, you only use it to your friends when you say like, oh, you know, 제가 말 놓을게요. So I'm gonna lower my speaking level from the formal to informal, and that's when you kind of get closer. I mean, of course you can get closer with speaking formal language, formal Korean also, but yeah, that's kind of the differentiation. I'm kind of afraid to speak because I don't want to make a mistake, but of course, learning language, I totally support the fact that you have to speak to learn. But that's something that I have to overcome. I'm sure a lot of you guys can empathize with me. So if you're facing the same thing as me, fighting, let's try our best. The last thing about language that I would like to point out is Korean likes to use a lot of lingo, which is similar to every other language. Like for example, in Singapore, we have short forms, and the way that we use our language very differently. It's the same for Korea as well. So for example, you want to say yes. Yes is ne. Ne is the formal way of speaking Korean, and the informal is 응. 응 is a 응 like this. So they will type 응. So 응 is just o. So it's like, at first when I saw it, I was like, o. What's o? O like o? You get what I mean? And that's not only all, they also have short forms of words. So Korean, when they try to express something, especially when they're typing messages, they try to shorten it by saying like, for example, 재미없다, which is not fun. They'll be like, no 잼. No 잼 means not fun. 잼 came from 재미없다, the first word. And then no is just no in English. So there's really a lot of things that you have to learn when you come to Korea, and 1 year is not enough for you to learn the language. So prior to coming to Korea, I do know how to read Korean words. I do understand Korean to a certain level. Even at my level right now, studying Korean before coming here studying for 1 year, I still struggle. So the thing is, I really hope if you guys are watching this video before coming to here to study or to work, you really consider learning Korean and really grasp the language before you come. I would say you cannot live without it here. If you're coming here to stay and you're working and you're trying to really fit in, not fit in, but try to work and make friends and really create a life here, you do need Korean language, okay? Okay. Let me get something to eat, I'm hungry. This also came from my friend, my kitty friend, Saviera. You guys know her. She sent me this stuff from Jeju. She's so sweet because she knows I'm really stressed with work, and yeah, she's been there, done there. Every foreigner will been there, done there also. Moving on. The second thing that you have to consider before coming here is Korean culture. This is my personal opinion once again. Really disclaimer, because I don't want to put Korean in a bad light. A lot of people have really good experience with Korea, and I do myself as well. But for me, I have to account for a lot more facts because Mr. Naughty's family is Korean also, so there's a Korean family culture in that part, and there's a society culture in that part, and there's a school culture, so it's really very messy. To make it short, today I will talk about the school culture in Korea. The first thing that you have to consider when you want to study language or masters or even undergraduate in Korea, it depends on the teacher that is teaching you that determines the culture that you are gonna experience. So for master study, it's very different I'm sure master study all over the world is the same, whereby it's a lot more about self-learning. The readings are given to you, but you have to read it and you have to teach yourself. So most lessons are discussion-based, debate-based, or I mean, there are some professors, they still are willing to teach, but most of it is really about presentations. So what happens is when you come to class, you have to choose the topic that you want to present, and then that whole lesson, you kind of like be in charge of that lesson, kind of. So that's what makes me stress. So one incident that I want to tell you is that was like my most membung state ever. The first day of school, I already faced that. So what happened was during class, okay, so I went to class happily in the morning. It's my professor's class. So it was about 10 in the morning. I went in, I knew it was orientation class, so I didn't really expect much from it. It's maybe her like trying to explain how the syllabus will be, what we're gonna learn for the week, for the whole semester. And then she sent us the syllabus through an email. So when I went in, I just kind of read the email, but I think I didn't really pay attention to what she said, because she said in Korean, of course. The whole class is in Korean, just that the readings are in English. So while I was reading the readings, I read the titles and I felt like, oh, wow, it's kind of interesting. So I was reading halfway, and then suddenly someone just went like, 박수민, 저는 5주차에 2번째 논문을 맡겠습니다. Then I'm just like, wait, what's going on? And then names started coming out one by one, and I was like, hey, hang on, wait. You mean like I'm supposed to choose something that I'm supposed to present? I was like in a frantic mood, okay? I went back again and I read, and I really don't know what to present. I didn't know you had to pick a presentation topic. I was so stressed because the thing is, after people started to pick, and then suddenly somebody was like, oh, 교수님, do we have to pick 2? And she was like, yeah, everybody have to pick 2. I was like, my gosh, there's no more left. Everybody's picking the one that we want, and I don't even have anything to present. But thankfully, because this professor is nice and a lot of people have taken their topics, I kind of got whatever that was left, and it was not too bad. And it wasn't like at the beginning of the week, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I get week 1 or week 2, I cannot present because I have to present it in Korean as well. And that was so stressful. I almost died that day. It was just one lesson, and the class was only 30 minutes, and I was like lost. I was totally lost at the end of it. So that was one of my first experience with going to school. A lot of you guys ask me whether it's better to take your master's in English. I would totally recommend you to take it in English. If your interest in the field that you want to study in, they offer in English. But for me, I chose to take it in Korean because they do not teach psychology in English. They only teach in Korean, so I didn't have a choice. And I didn't want to study something that I didn't like just because it's in English. So it was kind of a challenge for myself, and I kind of regret it every day now. But through the regretting, I kind of learned something, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So that's one incident that went through. The second incident when it comes to culture in school is, if you guys have been tracking my Insta stories, I was taking really long to decide between these 2 classes. Okay, so one of these classes is psychology of law, which is Pop 심리학, and there's this other class which is positive psychology. This class, Pop 심리학, it's a female professor, and she's really nice. She did. We exchanged a lot of emails. Because I asked her whether do you think it's advisable for a foreigner who only learned Korean for a year to take the language, and she kind of said that it would be better for me to take it next year if I'm scared. But the thing is, I asked her whether I can write in English, and she was like, I think since you're in Korea, it would be great if you can write in Korean. If not, if you're really stressed and because it's your first semester, maybe you should take it next year. So she was really nice about it. But can see that she's a bit worried about having a foreigner student in class where I do not speak fluent Korean. I am very honest about it. So that's one thing. I really struggle with speaking the simple Korean. Can you imagine reading academic Korean, speaking academic Korean, writing academic Korean? Okay, anyways. So it was between this class and this class. So this class, this professor, he is, I would say, quite traditional in a way. He is very particular about tardiness. So what happened was, on the Friday, I went to his class, but I had a meeting before that with my friends, and I didn't I mean, that was my mistake. I should have stayed in a cafe knowing that I only had half an hour to go home to take his class. But I wanted to take it in the conducive environment of a home because it's quiet. I didn't really want to do it at a cafe, but I should have left earlier. That was my fault, okay? I didn't make it to class in time. So what happened was, I had my phone with me, right? So I was like, you know what? It's OT class. Let me take class with my phone. So I was in a car. I couldn't make it into a cafe in time. So I drove as fast as I could to a public parking space. My friend was like, oh, you have to come to class now. You have to open your camera, you have to open your camera. I was like, I know, please give me some time. I really need some time right now. So I drove into the public parking space. Class, I was 6 minutes late. I remember the class was 2, I entered at 2:06. And then everybody was doing their self-introduction and then suddenly it was my turn. And then I was like, 먼저 사과드리고 싶습니다. 왜냐면 저는 like I was late. And I'm really sorry about it. And so I just wanted to tell him that I was late. And then after I went on to introduce myself, and when all of it was over, he was like, he said all this in Korean, right? Okay, he was like, are you in a car right now? I was like, yeah, I'm in the car. I'm really very sorry. Then he was like, so you're in the car right now and you think you can take a lesson in the car? I was like, damn, he's angry. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna keep saying sorry because I felt like no matter what I say, he's not gonna understand anyway, right? And I mean, it was my fault. So I was like, yeah, 죄송합니다. 너무 죄송합니다. 저는 이거는 실수했습니다. You know, all this kind of stuff. And then he was like, at the end of it, he was like, I don't know if it's just the first lesson or what. As an adult, I feel like these few acts are very like 실망스럽다. He's like, it's very disappointing as an adult, blah blah blah. And he went to talk, and he talked a lot. And of course, it ended there. But I was so sad. I was so hurt because it was my fault at first. But the professor didn't seem to understand me. So I was so stressed that day, and all that happened. So class ended. I sent a really long apology letter to him, and he just replied me with 네, 알겠어요, which means yes, okay. I'm just like, so if you guys have been following my story, the result is I decided to take law psychology. So why I decided to take that is because I understand the whole thing's in Korean, discussion in Korean, there's no presentation thankfully. Speaking in Korean, reading in Korean, everything's in Korean. But why I decided to take that class is because I had a lot of interest in that class and the teacher seems a lot nicer, and I was really stressed. I don't know if I make the right decision up to today because I still struggle with reading Korean, academic Korean. So I don't know, 지켜봐야지. We have to see what happens, so stay with me guys for this part. Okay, so that's about the professor. And the third thing about school culture is, I don't know about you guys, but Singapore admin in my school was already very slow. They don't communicate departments already, and I get pissed. I get pissed that time when I was in university. But yo guys, Korean admin, really like another level, like another level. And I struggle so much because they're always not clear with their instructions. Even I asked 2 or 3 times, hey, you told me to go here, I will go. What do I need? And then they'll be like, okay, you need A. I'm like, sure, you only need A? They'll be like, yes, you only need A. I was like, is there any other things they eat? They say, no, you don't need. Just bring A and they'll tell you the rest. So I was like, okay. I confirmed them 3 times, you only need A. I went there, they'll be like, oh, you need A and B and C. I'm just like, what's wrong with you guys? It's so... I'm 너무 짜증난 거야. Like, I'm so stressed because of that. I think it's the admin that's adding to my stress as well because there's so many things that I want to do on my own but it doesn't work, and it's not based on my ability. It's not something that I can do just by reading Korean, you know. There's a lot of things that... Wait, he's calling me.
Hi babe.
Hello?
Where you?
I'm just done.
Oh okay, I thought you end at 4, that's why I called you earlier.
Oh, yeah, I mean we end, then after I talk.
Third thing, the last thing that I want to talk about is the living cost in Korea. So, I have a lot of friends. They came here alone. They're staying in dormitories and there's a lot of perks while staying in dormitories. So, I would highly recommend you to stay in a dormitory as well. But if you're like me, you cannot do the cohabiting life. I cannot live with someone that I don't know, or even if it's my best friend and stuff like that for my whole life. I cannot, because I piss off easily. So sorry, Mr. Naughty. I piss off really very easily. So living here is really expensive, especially when it comes to home. Today, I'm just gonna briefly talk about the housing in Korea. So in housing, there are 3 different systems. They call it the 전세, 월세, and 매매. So what's the difference? Okay, it's gonna be a bit messy right here, so stay with me, yeah? So number 1, 전세. 전세, it's a deposit system whereby you put an amount of money for the house you want to stay in, and this money will be returned to you at the end of the contract. It's a bit messy, right? Okay, so this is how it goes. Let's say the place that you want to stay in is 5K. So you give 5K to the owner of this one room, the one that bought this house, and this money will stay with this owner for 2 years. And then at the end of 2 years, you can get back the 5K full. So you might be wondering, hey, then does it mean I stay for free? Well, it was kind of confusing for me at first also, but it's kind of free. So the only thing you pay for is electricity bills and water bill. And of course your living expenses bill, but the place itself, you only stay for 5K. So the thing is, why does Korea have this system? Because housing is so expensive in Korea. It's so hard to buy a house. That's the reason why they have this deposit system. The people who really own the house, they can use this money and buy another house or do investments and stuff like that. So this has been around for a really long time. I don't know who created it. I don't know if it's smart or not, because even the Koreans themselves are struggling so much with it. So I don't know about you guys, but 전세 is like kind of hard for me as well. So that's the reason why for students like me, we do the second thing, 월세. This is a very common concept in every country that we go to. 월세 is just monthly rent. So that means you just pay for the one room that you want to stay every month, which is about, it depends on where you stay, but Seoul's expensive. Seoul's about 600 to 800 bucks. It depends on the location and the size of the room. So about 600 to 800 dollars, you get to stay in the house. You pay this monthly rent and you don't get it back. But the thing is, you don't have deposit. So why people go for this is because as a foreigner, we might not have a big sum of that money. And also, there's a lot of scams whereby you might get cheated if you were to pay a big sum and this person run away, even Koreans themselves get cheated, so you might want to be very careful about it. That's the reason why people go to 부동산, and it comes by recommendations and stuff like that. I don't really have much with me right now, but if you guys, Singaporeans or anyone curious or need recommendation, maybe, I don't know, maybe we could do something about it. I'm sure Mrs. Naughty is doing something about it also, but we'll review it next time. So 매매, which is buying a house in Korea, it costs about, wait for this. It costs about 18억. 18억 is, okay, so it costs about 18억. So 1억 is 100K. So 18 times 100K. 18 times 100K. Let's see. About $2 million to buy a house in Korea. So that's really the apartment price in Korea. And 18억 is, I don't know, might not even be Gangnam, because I've heard and been to the area, and when I'm there, you can use an app which is like 직방 or 호캉 노노 or something like that to look for price. There's even 40억 for prices of house in Korea, so that's about 4 million for apartment. The place we're staying is an apartment now, and it costs about 10억, which is about $1 million to buy this house. Just like any other country, once again, every foreigner will have its limitations in the country that you are immigrating to. So the loans are not free and easy for all. So the thing is, we are left with no choice but to stay in 월세 places. The money goes out every month and it's so painful. So that's the reason why I wanted to talk about living in Korea. Something that you really have to consider before coming here. I know that after doing this video, it might sound very sad because there's a lot of things to, like I said, to consider before coming to Korea. I wouldn't say that Korea is a bad place to stay in, but based on my experience alone, it's not easy. So if you're watching this video and you've already seen this part, it means you have watched the entire thing. I'm really grateful that you're here with us. So if you have watched to this point, it means that you're really passionate about coming to Korea to learn its language and culture. I do recommend that you come here to try because you never know. Through these videos, of course, you can take a glimpse of the difficulties that you will face by coming to Korea. But the thing is, that's not all. There might be more, there might be less. Like I said, it's different for everyone. And this whole video is basically my experience and my opinion and how I feel. I'm a weak person. I'm a weak person. So if you're really strong and you really want to come here and live, I would say, why not? If you have anything else that you want to find out through my experience, please leave it in the comment section down below. Yuna, Onni is here to tell you my experience. So yes, I just want to thank you guys for watching this video once again. I really appreciate you and I'll see you in the next video.